Hi, I'm Riley, and this is my personal reflection for the creative writing class. In this class, I learned it is okay for the writing process to be messy, confusing, and often unpredictable. And that caused me to accept that I need to embrace failure and understand a certain standard or high expectation that I might set for myself can be accomplished in a variety and honestly multitude of different ways. So I have come to realize that sitting in my current emotions or feelings, whether they be positive or negative, will shape stories. And some of those might deserve to be thrown in the trash bin. But the ideas eventually can lead to something and to the creation of something beautiful. And I think that's what creative writing is all about. And I've gathered that conveying the gravity of moments is tricky, but so rewarding once the thoughts are put down on a piece of paper. Then, obviously, through much deliberation, I can craft them into clear language where they are easy to understand and for the reader and reaches the target audience. So, growing up, I was always told to power through writer's block, just get through it, and then be happy when it is avoided. But I've kind of have a new view that is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Now I firmly believe resting in the unknown of what will end up being written is so special, since pieces of your random trial and error themes or ideas or topics that you might come up with end up planting small seeds which can grow into be fruitful in poetry or prose. And so this step, I think, is almost, if not completely necessary to form the best versions of your personal works. I'm also a big fan of The Lord of the Rings. So when I was thinking about what I wanted to say for this reflection, this quote came to mind, and I think it kind of took on a new meaning and is a reminder of what I've learned and kind of an explanation of what I think the writer's process, my perception has altered a little bit. And so it says, "Not all those who wander are lost." This is J.R.R. Tolkien. And it's the idea your path could be windy and hard to see sometimes. Yet I have faith it will get you to the right destination, given enough grit, determination, and patience. I learned that intentional writing requires a consistent search to explore the far corners of your mind over the course of several days or even to weeks on end. I have a tendency to procrastinate and wait until the last day and try to draft a document and just write sentence after sentence in one sitting, and thinking that was working under pressure was always going to be the only path that would lead to success in my written works. But I've come to realize that almost the opposite is true, that when I have and take the time to mull over and contemplate and consider kind of the events in my own life, what I might be feeling, how can I express myself, and the world around me in a different way. And I think it takes that, like, having it in the back of your mind and then going about your daily life. And when things come up, that's when you say, okay, is there a way I could put this on paper? So with that in mind, I always kind of wondered how amazing authors were capable of establishing fictional worlds that were relatable and creative. And I think I finally found that answer. It starts with reflecting back on your own experiences and memories that were made to inspire plot points and character arcs. My paper for this class was about a date gone horribly wrong. And the silver lining was, by accepting that the majority of first dates are pretty awkward, second chances can happen. And the next one is usually way, way better. And so I loosely based this story on a date I had and overembellished the plot quite a bit, and for comedic purposes and hyperbole and that sort of thing. But it allowed me to offer still a level of realism, even though the occurrences were mainly fictionalized. I also had the opportunity to portray things from the girl's perspective, which I've never been exposed to really in the past. And this was a really neat experience for me. And I learned that a personal connection to the material you are presenting is so beneficial for reading engagement. And so as long as you have some sort of way you can relate to the content, I think other readers will be able to in that way as well. The other area helpful for keeping the audience's attention is documenting the human observations that sparked your interest during significant periods in your life. The information can be used to drive home these deeper topics such as love, pain, joy, relationship, conflict, hope, struggle, and loss. The content of your words matter, but I think the message is what ultimately lasts forever. With the final poem I had to write for this class, I covered the fear of being alone with your thoughts. And I like to say that I like to stay busy a lot sometimes to avoid addressing my faults and insecurities. And COVID led to this world shutdown, and depression seemed to spike. But I enjoyed the chance to share my view on kind of the biggest challenges we face, and I personally do, with the virus. And I consider myself an optimistic extrovert. So I'm an optimistic extrovert. And so I tend to shy away from self-evaluation, and for the purpose of not feeling my negative emotions. And so even though in this poem I wrote, the plot centered around a car or multiple cars at a red light, and where you have to stop and just kind of look around and take that time. But I learned the real writing is all about the underlying meaning. So my poem was an important realization of life in quarantine, and I'm convinced others resonate with these depictions of human instinct and matters of the heart. And perhaps, who am I to say, but it fills a void of intellectual stimulation. I was able to share what I had crafted to some of my family members, and they kind of felt like some of them had that similar experience and understanding in quarantine and during COVID. And so it was really awesome to be able to see that we had that in common. And kind of to sum up everything I'm saying, I feel like in this class, I reached new milestones and even had a breakthrough on my method of putting pen to paper. It all kind of goes back to being dedicated and trusting the writing process, having that grace for yourself, and staying flexible when things don't go as planned, because they almost never do. And I've recently found this is ultimately the key to productive writing. So poor performance is inevitable in this field, I think, at some point. I often, and we collectively read exceptional stories and admire the skill of their craft, but behind closed doors, I miss the frustrating nights, maybe the desires to give up or start over, and the really bad ideas that were filtered through before that masterpiece was completed. So I never quite realized the amount of work and passion that good writing demands until taking this course. Once you are fully committed and invested, finding the words to speak your truth becomes easier and more worthwhile. And I've come to know throughout the semester that creative writing is actually a science of discovering and others receiving a glimpse of who you are, what you stand for, and honestly how you see the world. So that is my personal reflection. And thanks for listening. I hope you were able to gather some insight from this video, and I'd love to hear your feedback.